Continuing from the previous chapter, with the help of Luo Heavenly God, Xiao Yan successfully assimilated spiritual energy, reaching the 6-star supreme level. Afterward, he began searching for his 2 wives, Kai Lin and Sooner. In the void, ripples appeared and then formed into a spatial passage. From it emerged a figure in black robes. Xiao Yan stood in the vast sky, his gaze sweeping over the seemingly endless expanse of the world. It had been nearly half a month since he arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds, and during this time, he had wandered across these lands, learning that this region belonged to the Luo god clan of the Western Heaven Realm. The region spanned thousands of continents, so vast that Xiao Yan had not even crossed its entirety in the past 2 weeks. So the continent of Doqi is merely a grain of sand in this vast world, Xiao Yan mused, marveling at the immensity of the Great Thousand Worlds. Although he hadn't engaged in any conflicts during this time, he could sense several terrifying presences within tens of thousands of miles, forces that would have been considered at least Dodi on the continent of Doqi. Yet here, they seemed to be merely ordinary supremes. After pondering for a moment, Xiao Yan directed his gaze toward a distant direction. In a flash, his figure shot forward, crossing thousands of miles in an instant. Maintaining this speed, Xiao Yan traveled for several minutes before a colossal city, stretching beyond the horizon, finally appeared in his view. Even from 1,000 miles away, the city loomed large, causing Xiao Yan to click his tongue in amazement. Just one city in the Great Thousand Worlds is no smaller than the central plains of the continent of Doqi. As Xiao Yan approached within 1,000 miles of the city, his presence caught the attention of several powerful individuals within. Thousands of miles away, in the western part of the city, a vast forest stretched out, with towering peaks rising into the sky. Within this forest stood numerous towering buildings. Deep within the forest, a massive red pavilion stood proudly between heaven and earth. Above this enormous pavilion, a colossal formation, tens of thousands of feet wide, emitted a faint glow as it rotated slowly. The spiritual energy permeating the heavens and earth seemed to be drawn by this formation. One could only imagine the apocalyptic scene that would unfold if this giant formation were to unleash its power. Inside the red pavilion, a man in red robes, who had been sitting in meditation, slowly opened his eyes and gazed into the distant sky. What a powerful aura! Is a strong expert passing by? He murmured to himself, before mysteriously vanishing from sight. Elsewhere in the city, a woman dressed in purple was walking along a busy street when she suddenly furrowed her brow and looked toward the sky outside the city, a cold smile curling on her lips. At the same time, thousands of miles away, in front of a mountain range, several grand halls stood imposingly, exuding an air of majesty. In a vast plaza about 10,000 feet wide, an elderly man in white robes appeared, his gaze also fixed beyond the city. He smiled faintly. Outside the city, Xiao Yan slowly descended from the sky, his eyes falling on a wooden plaque above the city gate. The large characters engraved on it read, "Western Dao City." Xiao Yan smiled calmly and stepped forward, walking directly into the massive city. The sounds of bustling activity soon filled his ears. Walking along a broad street over 100 feet wide, Xiao Yan glanced around. Although he had spent the last half-month traveling, it wasn't without purpose. He was searching for the 4 individuals who had accompanied him to the Great Thousand Worlds, including his 2 wives, Gu Sooner and Kai Lin, as well as Gu Yuan and Zhu Kuan, who had both recently ascended to the Dodi level. It seems I should find someone to ask about the local geography and see if there's any news of Sooner and the others, Xiao Yan murmured to himself, stepping toward a large building ahead. Suddenly, a massive explosion echoed through the air not far away, and a terrifying storm instantly swept across the area, covering a range of several thousand feet. The town below erupted in chaos as countless eyes turned toward the commotion in the sky. Xiao Yan's gaze also shifted toward the sky, where he saw thick clouds of dust enveloping an area spanning 1,000 feet. Then, a figure in white shot out from the dust, his expression grave. "Isn't that Lu Tianhuang from the 6th Mystical Sect? What's going on?" Cries of surprise immediately erupted from the crowd. A black light tore through the thick dust, and 4 figures burst forth, their yellow robes billowing as they released waves of black, spiritual energy. The energy formed four massive black beams that pierced through the sky, launching a furious assault on the white-robed youth. The youth in white gritted his teeth, and with a flash of white light, a long spear, about 10 feet in length, appeared in his hand. He thrust the spear forward, and a spear light, hundreds of feet long, clashed with the four black beams. The resulting shockwave of spiritual energy transformed into surging waves, sweeping across the area. No ordinary person dared to approach within 1,000 feet. Temporarily blocking the four black beams, the white-robed youth seized the opportunity to turn around and dart toward a distant mountain range. The four yellow-robed pursuers quickly followed. Standing in the street below, Xiao Yan's eyes were locked onto the white-robed youth. His brow furrowed slightly as he sensed a searing energy emanating from the youth's body, an energy that seemed to be some form of flame power. Such a powerful flame was something Xiao Yan couldn't ignore, likely on par with the heavenly flames he was familiar with. Could it be that this great thousand worlds also has heavenly flames? Xiao Yan wondered. Without hesitation, his figure vanished. Over a vast plain spanning thousands of miles, the white-robed youth streaked across the sky, with the four pursuers close behind. Suddenly, a figure tore through the air and appeared in front of Lu Tianhuang. The speed at which this figure moved caused Lu Tianhuang's heart to skip a beat. A supreme stage expert. Lu Tianhuang exclaimed in shock as he looked at the black-robed youth before him. He could feel an earth-shaking, terrifying power slowly emanating from the youth's body. This black-robed youth, who had suddenly appeared and blocked Lu Tianhuang's path, was none other than Xiao Yan. Reacting instinctively, Lu Tianhuang immediately released all the spiritual energy within his body, though he knew full well that with his mere divine soul tribulation-level strength, he stood no chance against a true supreme expert. I'll take care of the ones chasing you. In return, you'll let me see something inside your body, Xiao Yan said with a faint smile, his gaze fixed on Lu Tianhuang. Xiao Yan paid no heed to Lu Tianhuang's defensive posture. In the continent of Douqi, such divine soul tribulation-level strength would indeed be formidable, comparable to a 9-star Dosheng. But here, in the Great Thousand Worlds, it was far from enough. This realization made Xiao Yan's long-dormant battle spirit surge once again. Even if a Do Di were standing before Xiao Yan now, his attitude wouldn't change. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Lu Tianhuang's tense body relaxed slightly. It seemed that this black-robed youth didn't intend to kill him. What do you want to see? Lu Tianhuang asked, glancing at Xiao Yan, then at himself, clearly puzzled as to what he possessed that could be of interest to a stranger, especially one at the supreme stage. A sudden sound of tearing through the air emerged from behind Lu Tianhuang. In an instant, four figures traversed 100 feet of space, surrounding Lu Tianhuang and Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan cast a brief glance at them. Among these four, the weakest was at the peak of the second divine soul stage, while the strongest had already touched the supreme stage. Together, their combined strength would be formidable, making it difficult for anyone below the supreme stage to contend with them. The four pursuers quickly noticed the black-robed figure standing beside Lu Tianhuang. The raw, unrestrained power emanating from Xiao Yan's body caused their expressions to change dramatically. A supreme stage expert. One of the men in a yellow robe exclaimed in shock. Without hesitation, the four immediately dispersed in different directions, retreating rapidly. The black-robed youth who had suddenly appeared beside Lu Tianhuang was an enigma, and none of them were willing to risk their lives or rely on their affiliations to scare him off. Their first instinct was to retreat. However, just as the four of them retreated no more than 1,000 feet, they suddenly realized that the space around them began to tremble violently. In the next moment, a spatial prison materialized, trapping them within. Not far away, Xiao Yan slowly raised his hand and shook his head in disappointment. It seems that the spatial stability of this world is far stronger than that of the continent of Douqi. Xiao Yan remarked helplessly. Earlier, when he attempted to use the spatial prison technique, he found himself limited in his control over the space. As a Do Di, he could shatter the void and create new spaces with a mere thought on the continent of Douqi. Yet here, He could only manage to distort space and create a spatial prison. This implies that if a Dozun or even a Dosheng were to come here, they might not even be able to affect the space at all. The Great Thousand Worlds truly is extraordinary. Who are you? Do you intend to oppose our Heavenly Manor? One of the yellow-robed men trapped within the spatial prison stared at Xiao Yan, his face drenched in cold sweat as he spoke with a trembling voice. Heavenly Manor? Xiao Yan, who had just arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds, was unfamiliar with the various forces in this realm, including this so-called Heavenly Manor, which he had never heard of. We just obtained a top-tier spirit artifact from the trading pavilion, but this brat took advantage of our distraction to steal it, another yellow-robed man explained. Robbery? I used to do that too, Xiao Yan remarked nonchalantly, tilting his head with a curious look at Lu Tianhuang. Back in the Black Corner region of the continent of Doqi, when he was just a 4-star Dosher, he had the audacity to rob items from even Dowang and Dohuang experts. You shameless bastards, that top-tier spirit artifact originally belonged to the 6th Mystical Sect. It was only stolen later. I'm just taking back what rightfully belongs to us. Once I return to the 6th Mystical Sect, let's see how arrogant you can still be. Lu Tianhuang glared at the 4 yellow-robed men, speaking with righteous indignation before turning to Xiao Yan. I may not know your background, but the 6th Mystical Sect will remember your assistance today. Kid, we may not know who you are, but if you cross our Heavenly Manor, you'll face consequences you can't afford, one of the yellow-robed men trapped in the spatial prison shouted, seeing that Xiao Yan intended to help Lu Tianhuang. However, Xiao Yan wasn't swayed by the man's words. Instead, a cold, murderous intent surged within him. Back on the continent of Doqi, he had made the entire world bow before him, and now these 2 men, who hadn't even reached the Do-D stage, dared to threaten him? I despise being threatened, Xiao Yan muttered darkly. A terrifying aura that made the heavens and earth tremble spread out from him, and the searing heat enveloped nearly 1,000 miles around. Feeling the overwhelming power surging from Xiao Yan, the 4 yellow-robed men's faces twisted in horror. A sense of impending death washed over them, as they realized they stood no chance against such a force. Xiao Yan slowly raised his right hand, and with a single point towards the 4 yellow-robed men trapped within the spatial prison, a low shout echoed across the heavens and earth. Netherworld Finger. A colossal finger, nearly 1,000 feet in length and imbued with the power to destroy the heavens and earth, tore through the clouds above, striking down at the 4 yellow-robed men with fury. Even the space surrounding the massive finger twisted under its immense force. Spare them. Do not harm the people of Heavenly Manor. At that moment, a thunderous voice resounded through the skies. A beam of brownish-yellow light erupted from the distant horizon, and in just a few flashes, it traversed 1,000 miles, appearing beneath the terrifying Netherworld finger. Without hesitation, a fist was thrown forward. An aura no less powerful than Xiao Yan's spread from the figure wrapped in the brownish-yellow light. As the fist was launched, it transformed into a similarly massive fist, carrying a tremendous surge of spiritual energy. Boom! The finger and fist collided in the sky with a thunderous crash. The terrifying impact force swept outwards, causing the earth within 10,000 feet to collapse instantly. In the sky, Xiao Yan stood upon the void, with a wave of his sleeve dispelling the swirling dust that filled the air. Before the 4 yellow-robed men stood a middle-aged man dressed in brown robes. As he gazed at the brown-robed man, Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed slightly. The aura emanating from this man was no less potent than that of a 6-star Do-D from the continent of Doqi. This man was a 6th grade supreme. Lord Manor Master. Seeing the brown-robed man's arrival, the 4 yellow-robed men were instantly overjoyed, as if they had grasped a lifeline, and began to cry out for help. How did you manage to provoke such a powerful figure? The man, known as the Manor Master, glared at the 4 men before turning his gaze towards Xiao Yan. May I ask where you are from? The Manor Master of Heavenly Manor hesitated as he observed Xiao Yan. The reason for his hesitation was evident: Xiao Yan's youthful appearance. This young man possessed the terrifying strength of a 6th grade supreme, which hinted at an extraordinary talent. For someone of this age to have reached such an incredible level of power, it was highly likely that a formidable force supported him from behind. Thus, the Manor Master of Heavenly Manor dared not say anything that might offend Xiao Yan. However, he was certain that Xiao Yan was not from the Luo God Grand Domain. For over the past centuries, no matter how gifted the geniuses were, few could reach the 6th grade supreme stage at such a young age. Those who did were all famous throughout the Luo God Grand Domain, and clearly, this black-robed youth was not one of them. So, this black-robed youth was definitely not from the Luo God Grand Domain. I don't know. However, when Xiao Yan's unabashed reply echoed in the air, the Manor Master of Heavenly Manor felt a shock in his heart, and a surge of anger began to well up within him. Xiao Yan's words clearly showed that he didn't take the Manor Master seriously. Despite the Manor Master's status as a supreme expert ruling over this region of the Western Dao continent under the jurisdiction of the Luo God clan, Xiao Yan's dismissive attitude was evident. While the Manor Master might not amount to much in the eyes of the super clans within the Great Thousand Worlds, here, his power was on par with this black-robed youth. Both were 6th grade supremes, but this black-robed youth was clearly underestimating him. Though I don't know which force you belong to, this is the territory of the Luo God clan, within the Western Dao continent, not a region controlled by your backers. I intended to speak reasonably, but you've shown such disdain. Today, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders. As the Heavenly Manor's Manor Master spoke, the atmosphere within the surrounding area of nearly 10,000 miles grew ominously heavy, and both the ground and the air began to tremble. Behind the Manor Master, ripples appeared in the space, and then, several figures slowly emerged from the void. 5 figures appeared behind the Manor Master of Heavenly Manor. Among these 5, the weakest was a 3rd grade supreme, and the strongest had reached the 5th grade supreme stage. With the Manor Master, a 6th grade supreme, leading them, this formation would be enough to make even a 7th grade supreme hesitate. However, to the surprise of the Heavenly Manor's powerful cultivators, Xiao Yan showed no signs of retreat. His expression remained unchanged as he looked calmly at the 6 individuals led by the Manor Master. Then, to their shock, a gleeful smile of excitement appeared on Xiao Yan's face. My apologies, but there's no great force backing me. A fierce and eager grin spread across Xiao Yan's face, and suddenly, everyone felt the temperature of the entire area begin to rise rapidly. Xiao Yan slowly extended his hands, and on each of his 10 fingers, a different colored flame ignited, each emanating a wave of destructive energy. Ever since his battle with the Emperor of the Soul on the continent of Doqi decades ago, though he had achieved a Pyrrhic victory, Xiao Yan had spent the subsequent years in relentless cultivation. This continuous training left him feeling stifled, as he had always thrived in the heat of battle. For the first time, Xiao Yan realized that being invincible could be a form of loneliness. This pent-up frustration only found an outlet with the emergence of the Great Thousand Worlds. This mysterious and more profound world made Xiao Yan feel as if he had returned to his early days on the continent of Doqi, where powerful rivals constantly emerged, and where strength knew no bounds. The thrill of competition, of facing ever stronger opponents, reignited the fire in Xiao Yan's blood, which had lain dormant for decades. This was Xiao Yan's first battle in this new world, and it was clear that he had deliberately provoked it. He wanted to see just how much his strength, which had once dominated the continent of Doqi, was worth in the Great Thousand Worlds. Xiao Yan clenched the 5 fingers of his right hand, causing the flames burning on each finger to intertwine and fuse. In the blink of an eye, a small, delicate, azure-blue fire lotus the size of a fingernail appeared, radiating a terrifying wave of destructive power. Retreat quickly. For reasons he couldn't quite explain, the Manor Master of Heavenly Manor felt a sudden surge of danger in his heart as he gazed at the tiny yet exquisitely formed fire lotus that Xiao Yan had conjured. If this small fire lotus struck, even a 3rd or 4th grade supreme would suffer severe injuries. He immediately shouted a stern command to the 5 supreme experts behind him. At the Manor Master's command, the 5 supreme experts instantly moved, each dashing away in a different direction. Heh. Xiao Yan let out a cold chuckle before flicking his finger. The fire lotus, formed by the fusion of 5 heavenly flames, shot towards the Manor Master of Heavenly Manor. A surge of black light burst forth from the front of the Heavenly Manor's Manor Master, transforming into a colossal, jet-black mirror that spanned 1,000 feet. As the mirror rotated, the 5-colored fire lotus Xiao Yan had released reached it, and a collision of vastly disproportionate sizes ensued. Nearby, the Manor Master's face turned grim as he continuously channeled the spiritual energy from the surrounding area to resist Xiao Yan's fire lotus. However, in the next instant, his pupils contracted sharply as he noticed tiny cracks beginning to spread from the point of impact on the black mirror. The massive black mirror, 1,000 feet tall, shattered into countless fragments in an instant. The terrifying destructive force from the explosion leveled the surrounding mountains within 1,000 miles, reducing the land to utter devastation. The Fire Lotus's devastating power left the 6 experts of the Heavenly Manor in shock. They could hardly believe that such a small fire lotus, no larger than a fingernail, could unleash such an overwhelming force. That previous strike was comparable to the full power of a 5th-grade Supreme. However, Xiao Yan, floating in midair, merely shook his head in disappointment. Although the fire lotus was formed from the fusion of 5 heavenly flames, its power was far from the terrifying might of the Flame Eternal Ruler, created by merging 22 heavenly flames. Given Xiao Yan's current strength as a 6-star Do D, even a fusion of just 3 heavenly flames would have been enough to destroy most of the continent of Do Qi. Yet here, in the Great Thousand Worlds, the destructive range was limited to only 1,000 miles, which naturally left Xiao Yan somewhat dissatisfied. So, you want to compare numbers? Xiao Yan glanced coldly at the 6 supreme experts, including the Manor Master, and let out a chilling smile. Xiao Yan turned his left hand, revealing 5 different heavenly flames on his 5 fingers, distinct from those on his right hand. Suddenly, he clenched his hands together, and the 10 heavenly flames dissipated. As they vanished, Xiao Yan's body began to emit a dazzling array of colors, and then, streaks of light shot out from within him. Not far away, the 6 supreme experts of Heavenly Manor watched as the lights emerged from Xiao Yan's body, their expressions quickly turning serious. They observed in shock as these lights took shape around Xiao Yan, kneeling before him, and they collectively gasped in disbelief. A total of 22 figures, each surrounded by a scorching radiance, knelt on one knee before Xiao Yan. The terrifying waves of energy emanating from them caused the earth within a radius of nearly 10,000 miles to tremble violently. They're all Supremes. A voice of utter disbelief escaped one of the experts as he stared at the 22 figures kneeling before Xiao Yan. The weakest among them possessed the aura of a Supreme, and the strongest rivaled a 4th-grade Supreme. Xiao Yan looked at the 22 figures kneeling before him and smiled calmly. These figures were, of course, the 22 heavenly flames that had submitted to him. Originally, only the pure lotus demon flame and the void-swallowing flame had developed intelligence among them. However, after becoming a Do Di and defeating the Emperor of the Soul in Central Plains, Xiao Yan secluded himself in retreat. During this period of seclusion, aside from his daily cultivation, Xiao Yan didn't remain idle. Over nearly 10 years, he managed to elevate the intelligence of all the heavenly flames to the level of human intelligence. With the growth in their intelligence and Xiao Yan's refining methods, their strength had all been raised to the level of Do Di. Now, each of these heavenly flames was comparable to the original Tuasha ancient emperor. 22 supreme experts. With Xiao Yan, a 6th-grade supreme, leading them, this lineup would be enough to make even a 7th-grade supreme turn and flee. Not far behind Xiao Yan, Lu Tianhuang looked at the powerful figures kneeling before Xiao Yan, his face filled with shock. These experts all had the power to crush him with a single move, making Lu Tianhuang even more curious about what Xiao Yan was interested in regarding him. Sir, we acted rashly earlier. Please, don't hold it against us, the Manor Master of Heavenly Manor said, his tone now exceedingly polite as he addressed Xiao Yan. Seeing the 20-plus figures surrounding Xiao Yan, he understood that the young man before him possessed power far beyond anything Heavenly Manor could contend with. Any further confrontation would be suicidal. Oh, I'm new to the Great Thousand Worlds. No, I'm new too, Xiao Yan began to say, but suddenly realized he might have revealed too much and quickly corrected himself. However, before he could finish, the Manor Master interrupted him. What? You're not from the Great Thousand Worlds? Could you be a prodigy from a lower dimension? The Manor Master's voice rang out in surprise. In an instant, his previously astonished expression shifted to a smile. So, you're from a lower dimension. We were truly impolite earlier, the Manor Master said, his tone now filled with flattery as he addressed Xiao Yan. His attitude had taken a complete turn from before. Every strong person in the Great Thousand Worlds knew that anyone who could break through the barriers of a lower dimension to reach the Great Thousand Worlds was undoubtedly a peerless talent. Even if their strength was lacking at first, their potential would inevitably allow them to become a mighty figure in the future. So, within the vast Great Thousand Worlds, a trend began to emerge among some of the less prominent powers. Whenever they discovered a formidable warrior from a lower dimension, they would immediately shower them with flattery, desperately trying to bring them into their fold and nurture their growth. When such a prodigy finally shone, these factions could rise in rank, often by one or even several levels, almost overnight. This was essentially a form of investment. So, when the master of Heavenly Manor heard that Xiao Yan had come from a lower dimension, he was understandably thrilled. Even more exciting for him was that Xiao Yan had broken through the shackles of dimensions with the power of a supreme, indicating that his original dimension was, at the very least, a high-level one. Recruiting a prodigy from a high-level dimension held immense potential and benefits for Heavenly Manor. You've just arrived from a lower dimension and might not be familiar with some aspects of the Great Thousand Worlds. How about coming to stay at Heavenly Manor for a while? Our doors are always open for you, the Manor Master said with extreme flattery. You're trying to recruit me? Xiao Yan responded with a cold laugh. Hearing this, Lu Tianhuang, who stood behind Xiao Yan, felt his heart tighten. If Xiao Yan were to be recruited by them, it would be a fatal blow to the Sixth Mystical Sect, possibly even involving him as well. Heavenly Manor, you truly are shameless. Suddenly, an ancient voice echoed through the skies, followed by an overwhelming aura that far surpassed that of the Manor Master, spreading throughout the area. The expression on the Manor Master's face immediately became grave. Liu Bei Dao, you arrived quickly, the Manor Master muttered under his breath. Ripples began to appear in the space around Lu Tianhuang, and then a figure clad in white, old and weathered, emerged from the void behind him. Grandfather, you're finally here. Lu Tianhuang exclaimed with joy, as if he had grabbed hold of a lifeline, and in a flash, he darted to the old man's side. Humph, if I hadn't sensed the clash of high-level supremes here and rushed over, you'd already be dead, the white-robed elder scolded Lu Tianhuang before turning his gaze toward the Manor Master in the distance. Heavenly Manor, you've gone too far. Over a mere supreme-grade spirit artifact, you dare to try and kill a favored heir of the Sixth Mystical Sect. Humph, your wretched grandson stole from Heavenly Manor. We're merely reclaiming what's rightfully ours, the Manor Master retorted. He then gestured to the 5 supremes beside him, who immediately spread out, unleashing their full power. Their hand seals shifted, and beams of light intertwined, forming a grand formation. In the sky above, the enormous light array began to rotate, emitting a destructive force that spread outward. Xiao Yan, sensing the danger, moved in a flash, retreating thousands of feet with the 22 supreme experts formed from his heavenly flames. Xiao Yan smiled slightly. Having just arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds, he understood that it was better to observe the battles of this world, rather than getting involved right away. His gaze swept over the massive formation in front of him, and he could feel that if the Manor Master entered it, the formation's power would be comparable to that of a 7th-grade Supreme. Let's see what Heavenly Manor can do to justify killing my grandson over a spirit artifact, Liu Bei Dao declared. As his words fell, a terrifying aura enveloped the area, emanating from Liu Bei Dao. Under this crushing pressure, the 4 Heavenly Manor experts who had only passed the spiritual energy tribulation felt an overwhelming force pressing down on them. In an instant, They coughed up blood. Liu Beidao slowly extended his hand, and with a sweeping motion, the spiritual energy in the heavens surged, condensing into a massive, fiery palm spanning thousands of feet. The giant flaming hand, comprised of 6 distinct colors, radiated such power that even the heavens trembled. As it descended, Xiao Yan, watching from afar, couldn't help but show a hint of excitement. "What incredible flames!" Xiao Yan murmured in admiration. The 6-colored flames summoned by Liu Beidao were terrifying and could rival even the top 5 heavenly flames in his possession. It seemed that the ranking of top heavenly flames, which were considered elite on the continent of Doqi, would lose significance here. However, this realization only made Xiao Yan more eager. If even the top heavenly flames weren't considered powerful here, it meant there were even more profound and powerful flames in this world. If he could find and refine them using the flame mantra, who knows what heights his power could reach. Today, we'll see if the combined power of our 6 supremes can stand against you alone, Liu Beidao. The Manor Master growled, his figure blurring as he appeared within the massive formation. His hand seal shifted, and the radiant array began to activate. The enormous 6-colored flaming palm hurtled down toward the grand formation below, its terrifying power distorting the space within thousands of feet, while the earth within tens of thousands of miles quaked violently. The impending collision of these 2 terrifying forces promised unimaginable destruction, likely leveling everything within tens of thousands of miles of the western Dao city. "Manor Master, Sect Master, please stop." Just as the massive flaming palm was about to strike the grand array, a cry echoed through the heavens. In the distance, a purple light suddenly burst forth, piercing the sky. In the blink of an eye, it appeared between the enormous flaming hand and the grand array. The purple light expanded rapidly, transforming into a colossal purple barrier stretching thousands of feet wide. Waves of purple energy rippled from the barrier, passing through the 6-colored flaming hand. As the flames were pierced by the purple light, they began to slow down. In midair, Liu Beidao frowned slightly. With a wave of his sleeve, the massive flaming hand covering half the sky transformed back into a 6-colored flame and returned to his palm. Xiao Yan's gaze penetrated the void, focusing on the distant horizon, where a figure dressed in purple soared through the air. In a flash, the figure appeared before everyone. It was a beautiful woman clad in a purple robe, her entire being radiating spiritual energy. Her power had reached the level of a 6th-grade supreme, comparable to a 6-star Do-Di from the continent of Doqi. "He, Beidao, even at your age, you still act so impulsively." A hearty laugh echoed through the heavens as a patch of space nearby twisted and warped, forming a portal about 100 feet in diameter. From this spatial passage, 2 figures emerged slowly, a young man in black with strength not inferior to the Divine Soul stage, and an old man in black with his hands behind his back. To Xiao Yan's senses, the old man's power was already nearing the level of a 7th-grade supreme. Western Dao City is one of the main outposts of the Luo God clan. Do you intend to destroy this city? And in front of our guest from another dimension, no less. A cold voice resounded as another figure, clad in red, streaked across the sky. It was a middle-aged man, his aura matching that of Liu Beidao. "This young friend from a lower dimension, we owe you thanks for your earlier assistance. The 6th Mystical Sect is in your debt. In the future, should you need anything within our capabilities, we will spare no effort to assist you." The old man in white turned and bowed respectfully to Xiao Yan with a warm smile. Upon hearing the elder's words, Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed slightly, and he smiled. "Heh, I've just arrived from a lower dimension and am unfamiliar with the ways of the Great Thousand Worlds. But I do have something I'd like to consult you about later." Xiao Yan looked at the white-robed elder before him, who had just expressed gratitude, and felt a favorable impression of him. The elder's warm smile seemed genuine, and his strength, as Xiao Yan sensed, was even more profound than that of the Heavenly Manor Master, likely at the level of a 7th or even an 8th-grade supreme, comparable to a high-level Do-Di on the continent of Doqi. On the other hand, Xiao Yan didn't have much of a liking for the obsequious attitude of Heavenly Manor, especially since the Manor Master didn't seem like a good person, likely someone who wouldn't hesitate to resort to unscrupulous means. From what Xiao Yan had gathered, it seemed that people like him, who had broken through the dimensional barriers, were highly sought after in the Great Thousand Worlds. Factions were eager to recruit such talented individuals as a form of investment. However, Xiao Yan was no fool. Between the fawning of Heavenly Manor and the genuine kindness of the Sixth Mystical Sect, he naturally leaned toward the latter. Moreover, Xiao Yan had sensed a faint yet distinct wave of advanced fire energy from Lu Tianhuang earlier, a flame that seemed extraordinary, possibly even on par with some of the heavenly flames he possessed. This was another reason Xiao Yan decided to help Lu Tianhuang. Another factor influencing Xiao Yan's decision to align with Liu Bei Dao was the mention of the Luo God clan by the Heavenly Manor Master. Xiao Yan had roughly figured out that this vast region comprised thousands of immense continents, all under the jurisdiction of a super-clan known as the Luo God clan. This region was thus called the Luo God Grand Domain, with the Luo God clan being the undisputed rulers. Xiao Yan recalled an elder in gray on a towering peak in one of the continents who had mentioned that he was from this so-called Luo God clan, and his status seemed quite high. In short, Xiao Yan owed that elder a debt of gratitude for saving his life during the spiritual energy tribulation. Given his character, Xiao Yan would certainly repay this favor when the opportunity arose. As for Liu Bei Dao of the Sixth Mystical Sect, it seemed he was once a war elder of the Luo God clan, though he appeared to be retired now. Nevertheless, since he was affiliated with the Luo God clan, he was likely a trustworthy person. Therefore, Xiao Yan didn't hesitate to decline Heavenly Manor's invitation and instead extended goodwill toward the Sixth Mystical Sect. Watching Xiao Yan, Liu Bei Dao stroked his beard and smiled. "You saved my grandson's life, so you are a great benefactor of the Sixth Mystical Sect. If you have any requests, just ask." Not far away, the six supreme experts of Heavenly Manor watched as Xiao Yan not only rejected their invitation but also leaned toward the Sixth Mystical Sect. Their faces flushed with anger, as if they had been slapped in the face in front of the many high-ranking officials of Western Dao City. We'll remember this." With a cold snort, the Heavenly Manor Master, seeing the unfavorable situation, faded into the void behind him and disappeared. The remaining 5 Supremes followed suit, vanishing from sight. The heavy atmosphere that had enveloped the area finally began to dissipate.